Well, policymakers are concerned about something known as the cliff effect, which is the reduction in government benefits for people who end up making a bit more money than they were making before to qualify for government assistance. And I'm talking tonight with our Ozarks First contributors, Amy Blansett and Nick Reed, about not just the cliff effect, Amy. I know that is your expertise. But why it is, it seems to me, that a lot of times it's the more progressive or liberal politicians who are worried about getting this together, when, Nick, it would seem to me that conservatives should love this idea, because in the long run, it should save the government money. So, Amy, go ahead first and just throw out there anything you want about the cliff effect in case I didn't quite explain it right.
And that's a word that we use that I didn't even realize families who experience it don't even know what that is. So as you said, a loss of funds. If I get a $2 raise at my job, my child assistance benefit decreases, but at a greater rate than the raise that I got. So I'm worse off taking the raise. And so we've even had individuals say, I need you to hold off on that raise until it's this amount because the benefit doesn't match. So you're right to say we have created a system that penalizes individuals who get a raise and who are saying, no, thank you, I don't want it, because it doesn't work in their budget. So they're trying to make better, and they're trying to get off government assistance, but we have the cliff effect. So it just sheer drops off versus a step-down method. Crystal Quaid has been fighting this for a long time, and the whole idea of what goes up, how about it comes down at the same amount? And every time you go up, it comes down and we spend less, instead of individuals just completely saying no thank you and not taking the raise.
What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, and I'm not nearly as well versed as she is on this, but from what I've seen, it really, the biggest impact are people that are making like 15 an hour and go to 18.
Or yeah, 12.50 to 15,
yeah,
15 to 18,
and
right
I hear
in
that
15,
range. 18 is there's a real massive drop there. And if we are going to, as we do, live in a society with a government that subsidizes individuals that make below an income level, I mean, I don't know if there is, honestly, is there much of an argument, I'm going to ask, against doing what Crystal Quaid is talking about, or is it just not addressed?
My understanding is it's the latter. It's not so much that people are banging the table going, that's the worst idea ever. It's more like,
Yeah.
Right?
The bill was presented.
Amy's been up there testifying several times.
We had families come up and speak.
In Jeff City, yeah.
We went up, we gave numbers. A number of different organizations spoke about the numbers. We tried to give a human aspect to it and what's happening, the real life of how this influences. And individuals got heated about it. They were really upset about looking at it as a human capital. And as we improve in human capital, these benefits decrease. It just was one of those where, like most bills, a couple other things get tacked onto it, this, that, and the other, and then it doesn't end up ever moving all the way through. So everyone is supporting it. You know, we go up there and everyone's high-fiving, great idea, we want this in our county, we want this in our county, and then when it actually comes to the vote, it does not pass.
And of course, we know that if the Republican caucus wants to move something, it can move things. I mean, it's got the numbers to do it. And so, Nick, I'm just wondering, and again, I know Amy has more experience with this, but is there anything ideologically that you see that would be problematic?
I don't think ideologically. Now, I suppose where that begins on the scale of income, you could have disagreement over that. Does the diminishing of the benefit start at, annual salary of $20,000 or at $38,000? You know, at what point? I could see where there would be discussion over that. But intellectually, it seems like it's the sort of thing that anyone who supports getting people out of dependency on the government and into jobs where they're self-sustained for them and their families, that would, it seems like a pretty
cost savings, great way to do it.
Idea.
Now, I can say one area that does exist is right now you fill out a form, and you fill that form out not monthly, maybe every 6 months or a year. You have to, qualify, and then you have to continue to qualify. So there's not much system managing it. When we put in this step-down method, it is going to take a little bit more of, now I'm filling out my paper, which means someone has to review it, and the equation, right now there's not a clear equation. So someone might get a raise and their benefit drops. They don't know how much it's going to drop. So there would be some restructuring. It would take a little bit of funding to create a system. And my goodness, should we go to an automated system so that it was effective and easy and, we weren't putting people on hold forever? So that's part of it is, well, the system isn't in place. And how do we put the system in place? Who's going to put it? Who's going to oversee it? And then it just fizzles.
Well, and it is government, so this is where the obstacles of efficiency come into place.
Yes.
But you would think if there was an entity that monitored how much people make, I don't know, like the Department of Revenue, that maybe there is a system that is there, that maybe there could be some sort of integration.
One would
I know, right?
Yeah.
But we all can agree this sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely. And even both sides, even Republicans were saying, how do we bring this to our county? We believe in this.
Yeah.
And then it just doesn't see all the way through.
Well, I'm going to look into it more.
Yeah, I'll give you
I mean,
the House
really.
bill.
Well, you have
House Bill
influence
113.
on that side,
I
yeah?
don't think I do.
I
Believe me,
bet you
every
do.
day I realize I seem to have, no.
You can vote.
I can.
Yeah, well,
I absolutely
and so
can.
should
But
our
no, I
listeners.
think this is interesting, and if anything, well, and credit to you for bringing it up. I don't think people think about this
I don't
or
think
even
most
know.
people know
yeah.
what the cliff effect is.
Right.
They don't understand how it operates. As I said, people who are using it.
And I've heard people
don't
talk about in
know.
other parts of the country going, oh my God, I didn't realize this. And
Yes.
I have actually directed people to you and to Representative Quaid because for whatever reason, this is something that popped up here. Colorado, I think, was the
Right, I read
first to
about
start
that.
looking at that.
Yes.
And then we kind of started focusing on it here, but it's throughout the country. And of course, every state's different in their benefits and their state-run programs, at least. But I think by and large, it's one of these wins that if you talk about bringing people together across
Yes.
the aisle and all that sort of thing, this is a no-brainer, even if
Absolutely.
the implementation might be a little tricky.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I guess we solved that problem. One for the team. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, how many have we done?
Yeah. We won't talk about that. Nick Reed and Amy Blancet with us tonight. Thanks again for watching. We'll be back after this.